Yikes. Yikes, yikes. Oh. Maybe we're back just as I start to head over to type in chat. Do not panic. Just some run-of-the-mill, albeit extremely annoying, internet issues. Woohoo! So it does look like we may be running into this a couple more times over the evening. I don't know how many shutdowns I'm going to last before changing our gears here, but we won't stop it quite yet. I mean, I've got my eyes on you, internet router. Let's chill out for a minute, or I guess the modem in this case. Yikes, yikes, yikes. Well, fortunately we did get, at some point there, an amulet of regeneration. Now I'm completely distracted and thrown out of the mix. Okay, so it wasn't just you? No, it was not. And yeah, that was the second time so far this evening. It must be my provider struggling. I think I made the same joke last time, so maybe I won't do so again. But I do believe that the Super Bowl might play some kind of a factor in our internet struggles here today. I'm sure there's a whole lot of bandwidth going through the system right now. So that is, I guess, fair enough. But hopefully won't impact us too often over the remaining time here. Right, I also got a new set of sacrifices. Completely forgot in the heat of the moment there. Sacrifice forms, I'm guessing, is exactly what it sounds like. Yeah, so that's gonna be definitely a no from me. Also, this is just a modest sacrifice. Rude, don't you understand what you're asking of me, bud? But let's see. Cannot study or cast ice magic, alchemy magic, or necromancy. I mean, none of that seems too bad. Last but not least, reduced AC. AC -5. We're already going to be struggling so much to do so. Do you even need a sacrifice? Like, get the latest powers at 5-star? You do indeed. And in fact, I thought the same thing when we were first getting into some decent runs with Rue. I guess that was a couple weeks back now. But the power on Apocalypse, I believe, scales with Piety. Yeah, the damage dealt increases with your Piety and experience level, so there's something to be said for getting it up to max Piety, especially if it's a sacrifice that doesn't matter too much, which I'm kind of looking at this Arcana sacrifice, because I think we will probably be resorting to using a lot of utility spells, so I'd like to keep, if at all possible, translocations available. Maybe that's it. I guess hexes, though I don't know how much those really play a factor if we're kind of pivoting into this utility slot later in the game once we're fully satisfied with where shapeshifting is sitting. Could just wait for a better selection then. True. I don't think I mind the Arcana one here, though. I'm trying to think of what I would be willing to sacrifice on this character, and there's not a lot. So I think I will actually sacrifice. Oh, let's make sure that I'm hitting the right key there. In fact, let's click on it just to be doubly sure. Ice magic, alchemy, and necromancy. It means that we won't get to try out the fugue of death, something like that, I believe was its name. But that is not by any stretch of the imagination a deal breaker, seeing as how we're unlikely to really give it a solid go at any point during this run in particular. And we can save those again for a necromancy run in the future, potentially a mummy, if we want to see if that change ended up being too much of a buff. Which I can't imagine it's going to do too much to offset the struggle that is running a mummy these days. But fantastic. Well, we're definitely settled in. I mean, this isn't the first time we've said it. even just over the course of this run, but I feel like it bears repeating because it's definitely going swimmingly at the moment. In fact, we did indeed go over 10 shapeshifting, so we're actually sitting in a pretty solid spot on our talisman, 120% HP, and 10 bonus armor class. Not bad whatsoever. Basically, doing better than we were prior to the change, so that is fantastic. I don't like that dislocation trap. Unfortunately, backing away probably wasn't the right idea. Fighting amongst the fungi might have been the right call. Yikes. And there we go. Nice reality check to just hit us directly in the face after all of our waxing on about how well things were going. Very much deserved, so that's fair enough. I'm trying to think of what the best way to deal with these kiddos might be. I mean, that's a start that we can at least separate one of them so we're not taking 3 hits at once, because that was definitely a huge factor in our struggle. And is there anything else we could really do here? I don't think the switch to the Maw Talisman is going to be the way to go. Being poked by a bunch of merfolk with spears when you're in water is kind of asking for trouble. No kidding. Though do aquatic players suffer water penalties? I don't think so, and specifically with this character, we are normally, I think, already large, but even if we weren't, then in the snake form and dragon form, I believe I saw the little flag. So yeah, large-sized creatures, as long as you're not moving in water, you're not getting penalized. But can still definitely find ourselves in a tricky spot, so very happy to separate these 3 into smaller group sizes, and that's doing a heck of a lot better. Holy moly. Okay, so we got Snake and Shoals as our S branches. I mean, Snake is definitely fitting to say the least. Shoals, I'm now feeling more scared of than I was originally, just based on how that went. Oh, this is the little indie vault. Very neat, but nothing really to interest us at the moment. Ooh, and an ice cavern, hey? Well, do I have any interest? An ice cavern? Not sure I do. Also, hello, Fanar. This is why we're no longer wearing that ring of fire. Good amount of preemptive planning there, just to make sure we don't do anything too silly. So if we could change to a shape that let us keep our scarf, then we at least have some cold resistance. Does that make you dealable? Or I guess, to be more explicit, does that make you an enemy that we think we can be comfortable dealing with? It'd either be, yeah, the contamination one, I believe, lets us retain that. Also the Maw here. So I'm kind of curious. Damage rating with unarmed is 39 in this form. If we swap out... Oh, whoops. Do you know what? We should be okay. Fighting a froggy boy, that's fine. We switch over into the Maw Talisman and take a look. 28, so we're actually doing okay there, and we get the additional, at least % chance to trigger the Maw. Only 2 armor class. It's a bit rough. We don't have AC or evasion in this form. We're kind of a sitting duck, unfortunately. So potentially what we'll do instead is just head to a different stairwell for now. And we can see if we're able to gain any more advantages before hopping into that fight, because I do think we're going to struggle with it. One thing I should do, as mentioned earlier, is drop the Scrolls of Summoning so that we don't have any kind of false sense of security that will have any impact in trying to get ourselves out of a tough situation. And we get the very distant message while down this direction, so I'm guessing it is somewhere up towards where we saw our ice-themed friend. So we'll head up, I guess, just to the far top right here. And we'll wait for another message. Yeah, very nearby. So my guess... Yeah, there it is. Well... No cult resistance at the moment. I guess, what are you, kiddos? 20 and another 20 is not great. Oof, yeah, Elephant Simulacrum, just because they get a few different procs here, does definitely throw a little bit of a rub into the mix. Unfortunately, I think we're still too far off for Dragon Form. Actually, maybe not. HP 109%. Oh, does this suck in everything? It does say all equipped armor and weapons, so probably do lose it. In fact, we'll gain extra vulnerability to cold if this has retained that aspect from the original setup, and indeed it did. Yikes. So never mind the dragon plan, that's definitely not the right move. I mean, I don't really love any of our options right now, unfortunately. We're just not set up to deal with ice by any stretch. If we still had access to evocables, then a Wand of Flame could at least do a little bit of softening up to make sure that we get through this in one piece. I am scared of our elephant friend here, but they do have low health, so I mean, at the end of the day, we'll probably, yeah, kill them in one hit. Perfect. Could just not do it. It'll only give you a bunch of gear you can't use anyway. Only reason to do so is the XP. Yeah, there is a pretty solid chance that it would contain a ring of cold resistance, which is what I'm desperately wishing I had at this moment in time. But I do think you're on the right track there, that it's probably not worth it. Again, it's the slight hope to get that ring, but more than that, it's just my tendency to not leave any stone unturned. It always feels weird not to enter these time portals when given the chance. I mean, generally, if we go in, we'll have the chance to escape. Gotta clear everything, gotta do that 100%. Exactly, that's my issue. Specifically with these time portals, like there are a lot of branches of the game that I won't bother going to in a 3-rune attempt, but the time portals, I mean, you put so much energy just making sure you get there before everything shuts down. So I think regardless, we'll hop in and take a look. Ooh, and see, yeah, this is the ice cave that I'm happy dealing with. We will still have a tough fight at the end. Oh, and actually are a few Frostweaver and friends coming out now. But the majority of enemies should be completely manageable as long as we keep getting the different furry packs here. So that's not too bad. And yeah, as you mentioned, there's we can always leave if things start looking a bit out of hand, especially we have the ability to cross the deep water, so we can kind of get a little sneaky with that. The Frost Giant could follow us across, of course. I'm curious, are you going to swap in, Frost Giant? Give it a few turns? No, not at all. And I do have a lot of health. That is our big saving grace with Oni in general, and then a lot of these forms will kind of compound off that as well. 120% HP right now is definitely not too bad. Slightly worried about our Frost Giant friend. We'll at least, yeah, bring them out into the deep water here. Whew. Little bit tougher than I would like. Yeah, they probably didn't want to switch. I'm guessing, I think a large part of the calculation for enemies swapping places in this game is their hit dice. It's essentially to prevent the weak popcorn enemies from always jumping in and swapping out the heavy hitters, and vice versa, allowing those heavy hitters to squeeze on by to ruin your day at any given opportunity. So yeah, I think Death Yaks are much higher hit dice than their kind of threat level implies. So it makes a lot of sense. But regardless, we're able to take care of them without too much concern here, so that is beautiful. And it's looking like, yeah, we will be able to make our way through here, gathering up a decent chunk of experience along the way. No rings to help us out, unfortunately. I don't like standing in a cloud of cold, but we just needed a little bit more damage, so we tough it out. Okay, well, just experience at the end of the day, but boy was it a fun one. So that gives them a lot of will, right? You remember not being able to status them reliably at all. I don't know if there's 100% correlation between those two values, but you're definitely correct. That their willpower is pretty absurdly high. Snorg and a Hydra, I mean, if it was just one of you, I'd be feeling a little bit better about this. Scroll of Teleportation is slightly scary, just because we have that Fanar wandering about somewhere on the level, but fortunately it brings us somewhere completely safe, so don't have to start working through those different permutations and trying to figure out the best move, and instead we can just be happy with where we're sitting. We're currently at 14.6 skill and shapeshifting, so we're getting real close to dragon form. Again, probably won't feel super comfortable doing that on this level in particular, based on how things have been looking overall. In fact, what do I want to do at this stage in my life? I'd like to try to bait out just the Hydra or just Snorg, if at all possible. Hey kids? Any of you hanging out up here? Hydra? Hydra pal? Nope. Immediately get Snorg and the Hydra. We could take one upstairs, potentially not bringing the other. I guess 96 health on you. When you rage is, of course, when it becomes an issue. Oof. And with random energy. Or not random energy. Unfortunately, Rue kind of hurt us slightly there by forcing Snorg to slow down, because we were hoping to get Snorg to step towards us, but we'll play it on the safe side for the time being. Let's reset one more time. Oops, sorry, Mushroom. Oh, good thing Fedhas is hopefully not watching at the moment. Okay, there we go. I think it may have worked out. We got just the Hydra, no Snorg. That's what we like to see. And fortunately, biting shouldn't take off Hydra heads. Not too bad whatsoever. Ooh-wee. 130% HP due to low skill. The game seems to think this is not recommended. I mean, they're not wrong. It would be a nice amount of HP. I was shocked by that at first too. I thought these would always be below 100% until we hit minimum, and then kind of, you know, build from there. But again, the small chance that we run into you, my friend, is exactly why we're being careful. What we could do, we have one scroll of silence. Normally I'd want to save that for, like, Nikola Tesla is usually where we immediately throw one of those bad boys out, but I'm tempted to do so against Fanar. It just sucks because they're also pretty squishy, so we should be able to kill them, you know, in 3 hits or so. And we might have the health pool to do that. Oh, especially if we get the blind off from Rue as well. Perfect. Let's get rid of our snail friend, and not too shabby. I mean, you're facing Fanar, not Tesla at the moment. True, and that's usually exactly where my runs go to die, is I am such a sucker for too good to use syndrome and saving things for a later date when they could have potentially prevented a very, very stupid death. But fortunately, doesn't seem to be the case in this time, or this time in particular. Robe of the Wasteland, Electricity Resistance MP, Arch Magi. I mean, it's a cool little robe. Maybe I'll pick it up just in case we end up pivoting into any of those directions. But definitely not in too much of a hurry to make the swap. I mean, not like it would matter too much. We're currently planning on having our body armor merged into our body over the next while here. But at least nice to have some potential options in the back pocket for later. 13 elixirs at the final battle and not using a single one. Exactly. Too good to use club is very much a problem, no kidding. And you just saying that elixirs at the final battle, that's essentially what happened to me in Baldur's Gate 3. I was saving up everything during that entire game. I was playing on Tactician difficulty, so I was ready to potentially dip into my pockets, but never really needed to. And then I believe in the very final fight of the game was when I was like, okay, I have to use some, right? Just to even try it out. I don't even know how much of an effect it did or didn't have, but it's definitely a consistent problem for me across the board in basically any game that I play. But I'm slowly but surely getting slightly better at encapsulating the whole smoke 'em if you got 'em strategy and trying to be a little more consistent there. How Plebis? You okay, man? Guessing that was not the intended plan for your calcifying smoke. Regardless, more than happy to take advantage of it. I was kind of sad that none of the Death Yaks entered into the cloud, because that definitely would have been the dream case scenario. But these are all details at the moment, seeing as how we survived without too much of an issue in the first place. So can't really complain whatsoever. But yes, more wolf packs, please and thank you, game. No problem dealing with those. My partner and I are both very worried right now. We're on like the very verge of being sick, you know, waking up a little stuffed and wondering if we are catching a cold. And I didn't think that I was whatsoever. I thought it was just kind of some stuffiness in the morning. You know, occasionally if I eat certain types of food, usually get a little congested. But after talking, even for this relatively short while, I'm already definitely starting to feel a little bit in my throat. So hopefully that's just a figment of my imagination, a bit of paranoia creeping in and not any tangible issues here. But one thing I could do is try to be a little more proactive with taking sips from my drink as well. But okie dokie, we hit 16 skills, so we're now at the minimum for using our Dragon Blood Talisman. We will, at some point, definitely want to train this up further, get more bonus AC, more unarmed base damage as well. Both of those fantastic, of course. Do we wish to do so at all now? I guess is the question of the hour. Trying to think of what we'll be doing for training in general, because if we're going dragon mode, throwing's not going to really be an option. I guess it would largely be, I think Stormform still gives you access to weapons, if I'm not mistaken. But definitely could have been some balance changes there, some shifts. And actually, now that I said it out loud, I don't even know if it's true with the transmutation spell. So maybe just don't take any of what I'm saying at face value. But regardless, throwing doesn't seem like it will be really applicable the whole time. So it would be, yeah, one of the defensive skills. Fighting for more health, dodging, armor is not really necessary. So is it just going to be fighting, dodging, and shapeshifting, and that's our entire life? Done and done? I mean, not too bad. You didn't get too far in Baldur's Gate 3, Azurus? Midway through Chapter 2, you'd think? Nice. I absolutely adored that game. I think I got to the start of Act 3 playing relatively consistently, and then I took an extended break. I think I went like a month or two without touching the game, and then finally went back to beat it when I had time over the holidays. And it was like, this is my one moment to fit in, to cram in all the gaming that I'd like to do. But absolutely adored the game and definitely plan to do a second run at some point in the future. If I'm feeling under the weather, take my precautionary measures. Get vitamin C, stay hydrated, and rest when you're feeling tired. Oh, that last one I think is where I struggle the most. Resting is always going to be a sore spot for me. I'm such a terrible person for that. Specifically, I feel like at a certain age when I was growing up, I started to feel like sleeping was such a huge waste of time. Because, I mean, it kind of objectively is. It's completely necessary, which I think is the important part of that calculus. But I was doing research into, you know, all the different fancy sleep cycles and ways that people have tried to get around the extended need for sleep. And now I don't do any of those, and instead I just stay up far too late and then continue to wake up at the same time. So that's great. But no, I'm sure I'll be fine at the end of the day here, even if it takes the wind out of my sails for a day or two. Fortunately, for my actual job, my actual job rather, isn't really impacted by that side of things. Don't have to do quite as much talking. The occasional meetings here or there, and I definitely like to appear fully professional nose whenever possible, but is what it is.